Good evening. You're joining the State of Business on our television with me, Nishani Pigera. Let's first take a look at tonight's headlines. Liberalizing labour markets will result in more employment opportunities, says Professor Hausman. Sri Lanka's Ministry of Telecommunication and Infrastructure signs MOU with Microsoft. In tonight's top story, Director of the Centre for International Development at Harvard University, Professor Ricardo Hausman, says liberalizing labour markets of Sri Lanka will result in immigrants creating more employment opportunities for Sri Lankans instead of taking away jobs from locals. He made this statement while delivering a lecture under the theme Accessing Know-How for Development, organised by the Advocata Institute in Colombo last evening.
The Australians are at 27% migration and they think it's too high. The Panamanians are at 4.7% migration and they think it's too high. The Sri Lankans are at 0.1% migration and they think it's too high. Right? So people always think it's too high. But the point is that because they are so restrictive on immigration, the migrants make out like bandits. With the talent you have the country you have. But with the talent you cannot have the country you want to have. To have the country you want to have, you have to compete for talent. And if people come to Sri Lanka to live, they don't come to steal other people's jobs. They are different letter that allows you to combine your letter with their letters to make more things. Because they decide to come to Sri Lanka, that should make you feel good about your country. It means that there are other people in the world who think that you're cool, that it's cool, that it's a great place to live, and that they want to share the experience with you. So I would think that there is here a topic. I think that immigration policy is probably the lowest hanging fruit in the developing world. You're not alone in the world. Many countries have incredible barriers to immigration, and those barriers to immigration are biased towards the high skill, not towards the low skill, towards the high skill. So I would say to you, it's cheaper than, it's the cheapest idea around. It's the fastest way to increase productivity, innovation, and so on. It doesn't cost you much. It happens on its own, and it can make you a much stronger country.
Outlining the Asian neighbour countries' economic growth, Professor Hausman further noted that Sri Lanka's IT industry can gain more benefits by linking with the Indian market.
Sri Lanka, for example, has an ICT sector. The ICT sector in Sri Lanka represents 1.1% of GDP, according to the latest World Development Indicators. So that's, small by the standards of the possible. India is at 5%. Malaysia is at 2.8%, Philippines is at 7%, etc. So this is a sector that could potentially be much bigger than it is. And if it were much bigger, then you would generate more exports, and if you generate more exports, you have less balance of payments problems, you can import more, and as a consequence, everything else can grow more. So in net, you are an exporter of IT engineers. And they are the highest paid profession in Sri Lanka, controlling for years of schooling and so on. So you would say, gee, maybe you'll have to do, if you want to grow the IT sector, maybe you have to let some people in.
Sri Lanka's Ministry of Telecommunication, Digital Infrastructure and Foreign Employment yesterday signed a memorandum of understanding with Microsoft to drive the country's digital transformation.
The MOU was signed between Telecommunication, Digital Infrastructure and Foreign Employment Ministry Secretary Vasanta Deshapriya and Microsoft Sri Lanka Country Manager Hasitabe Vardana in the presence of Telecommunication, Digital Infrastructure and Foreign Employment Minister Havin Fernando and Microsoft Asia Pacific General Manager Vivek Puthukode. The MOU enables the ministry to improve efficiency and create good governance across the government to ensure effective citizen services to the public.
The MOU covers the three areas I was talking about. We can call it in 5 different pillars, but the first area where we will bring our expertise is to sit down with the ministry as well as the ICTA to figure out and where we can contribute in terms of the digital blueprint of the country, digital strategy of the country, if you can say so. And also getting, how do we improve the citizen services? How do we get one platform where the entire government can collaborate together. That's the second area we can get involved, we intend to get involved. Thirdly, Secretary pointed out the capacity building. Talk about all the things we use. It's no point going into digital if you don't know, you don't understand, and you can't use it. In the area of education, we have been doing a lot of work. This is where I think we have made the biggest impact in the country if I talk about the last 14 years. We have already started a program with Ministry of Education with the guidance of ICTA with regard to transforming the education. 21st century education, how do we using right type of technology and equipment. Last but not least, the biggest thing we talked about and the most concern everyone has, the security side.
Meanwhile, addressing the event, Minister of Telecommunication, Digital Infrastructure and Foreign Employment, Harin Fernando, made the following remarks.
Sri Lanka could be the next alternative for Dubai or Singapore. I keep saying it, and we need to be prepared and we need to be ready. And how we be ready, and we need to be digitally savvy. How do we do that? We need to have our youngsters be prepared to take that pressure. Sri Lanka, 2/3 of the country is fiber optic enabled. We have the fiber optic cabling done within Sri Lanka. But there is a mindset issue in Sri Lanka. People don't believe that we are still digitally connected. The government service don't believe it. The government servants don't want to transform there. They don't want, I said this in the morning also, they still want to remain on the ADSL and not use the fiber optic. When they have a LGN connectivity where 100 Mbps connectivity is available, they still want to stick into their own filing system of what they have and not go into the digital era of things. How do we change people's thinking? So I think it's important to have this best practices brought in. And there are various projects that we will have Microsoft support brought into the ministry on cybersecurity, guiding on procurement. Procurement is another issue key issue that the government is facing. So there are various things that we are working on.
The State of Business will return with more news after this short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're with the State of Business. The roundtable discussion of the nation's Trust Bank PLC was held in Colombo this morning. Speaking at the event, Senior Executive Vice President in SME Banking of Nation's Trust Bank PLC, Bandara Jayatilaka, explained the role of a bank when cooperating with small and medium enterprises.
Some people think the bank's role in servicing SME is giving a loan. I think it's much more than that because most of the SMEs, they will start their business with their own capital, and then when they are time to expand, there is a role for the bank to play in advancing or lending money. The real role I would say the bank would play in a SME is taking the customers. I think financial mentoring, if you call it, is what is required for a SME because they have the idea, they want to execute it, maybe they have the technical expertise to do it, but they may not be really financial savvy. So in that case, the bank has a big role to play. Why I say that is when you do an analysis, if 100 people start businesses, only 25 people survive through the cycle, and we basically take them into a next level. So why 75% failure rate? It's a huge failure rate, I would say. So I think bankers has a very big duty to see that the 75% become less and less, and more than 25% of the success rate goes higher and higher.
During the discussion, Nations Trust Bank's Executive Vice President of Leasing, Priyantha Wijayasekara, made the following remarks.
Last Monday, we launched a new product called My Bike Leasing. With vehicle prices going up, we feel the emerging youth, which is the youth who are going into first-time employment, require some sort of mode of transportation. So we are looking at facilitating financing for two-wheelers, which is huge in places like Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. This is the first-time employment. People where they earn about 50 to 20,000 rupees. They need a two-wheeler. No bank has got into two-wheeler leasing. We have come in to facilitate that because because it's very expensive to finance a two-wheeler due to risk factors associated with that segment. National Trust Bank has now come in a big way.
After this short break, it's a Stock Watch. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the show. A look at how the stocks performed today. Trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The All Share Price Index dropped 10.29 points to close at 6,473.18, and the S&P SL 20 dropped 10.67 points to close at 3,609.88. Turnover was 484.6 million rupees and 21.8 million shares were traded. And here's a look at the day's foreign exchange rates. And that brings the show to a close for today. Do join us again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you for joining us. Good night.